Hello again there, friends and neighbors. Mike Troe for the Saline County Libertarian Party. Hey, right up front here, huge ups from last time. We talked about Governor Sammy and his budget problems. The Weatherman should have discussed privatization of schools and highways. These two budget items are associated with government operation. It's almost an article of faith that only the government can properly operate these two. What makes it an article of faith? There's little evidence that the private sector cannot do it better. We, of course, cannot make blanket statements, and the Weatherman will never make a blanket statement. There's always that possibility that there's that 1 in 100, okay? There's always an exception, especially about education. But private schools do tend to have smaller classrooms and more parental involvement. Now, I've been in public education for a big chunk of my life. And I know that the downside to private education is the out-of-pocket expense. So the things that public school tries so hard to achieve, parental involvement, small classrooms, the private school already has. Public teachers do tend to be more qualified, okay? But they also have to deal with more bureaucracy. Roads have always been mostly public, so the thought of privatizing them causes people to gasp and shout. They tell stories of people running off the roads and the roads are in complete chaos if the all-knowing and all-perfect government isn't paving the road. While looking beyond the fact that people are dying now on public roads. But the point is here, folks, the point is I should have taken the time to get into this and offer it as a solution. Okay? Using the private schools and private roads would help the treasury of the state of Kansas because the money would not have to be used for those items. Well, of course, you know, in the government's part, the road money is to be used to balance the budget, not to do the roads. But anyway, philosophically speaking now, governments could use the money for Medicaid, for child care. We have to remember that the pot of money is getting smaller. It's getting less. The real savior here for the government would be to expand the tax base. And as we talked about last time, that ain't happening as long as the gov is in Cedar Crest. But you gotta create more jobs. But that requires bringing business into Kansas, not running them off. Hey, we libertarians had a convention in Salina, April 29th and 30th. Mike Wilson videoed vast majority of it, not all of it. You know, there's some stuff in the afternoon about 2:30. Not even if you're a hardcore libertarian, you really care about it. But most of the rest of the stuff, Mike did videotape, and he does have it on our county website. So you can see it. It'll also be appearing here on Access, I do believe. One of the items we did was to elect a candidate for political office. And we selected a fine young man. Hey, any of you young people want to get involved in like a young libertarians group or anything, here's the dude to get a hold of. Joey is a great young man. He works here in Salina, is a father of 2 young kids. They're just darling. That's a great family. You can meet him on Facebook. He's been interviewed on Dr. Kempton's radio show. You can check that out also. We also chose a young man from Hutchinson. And this is what I really liked. All the number of young people coming in and saying, hey, I want to run for office. Okay? Well, this young man is from Hutchinson, and he's going to be running for the U.S. House District 1. That's the one now held by from Hayes. Or no, I'm sorry, from Fowler. His name is Kerry Burt, and we'll be discussing both Joey and Kerry in future times. So, but you can check him out. I ran into this guy here. Never knew the dude before the 29th of April. Never met him before. But he walked up and he stuck out his hand and he says, hi, I'm Mike Shannon, and I want your vote for President of the United States. And I'm like, well, what does he have to say? Well, okay, Mike taped him at the convention. Let's see what Mike Shannon has to say.
Hello, my name is Mike Shannon. I'm a presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. I'd like to thank the Kansas State delegation for having me here in Salina. My message is a little different than most libertarians. I don't speak libertarianese, but I do speak the language of voters. I'm the same age as the Libertarian Party. I'm in my 44th year. In 1972, the Libertarian Party had its first candidate on the ballot in the presidential election. And I remember reading the paper that day and thinking, you know, these libertarians could really become something someday. But that hasn't happened. In fact, in every presidential election during my entire life, the Libertarian Party has garnered just 1% of the vote. 4 years ago, Gary Johnson was our nominee, and he got 1% of the vote again. I have a strategic vision for a new Libertarian Party that can be relevant to families and middle America. For too long, libertarians have used the Nolan chart of political views for its gemstone. The problem with that is that the Nolan chart is only based on ideology. The truth is, real political battles happen more about real estate than ideology. And if you look at it through that lens, it becomes very obvious that libertarians are going after the same rural markets that Republicans are going after. And then the only thing that's left are the table scraps of purist ideologues, which represent about 1%. My new strategic plan for the Libertarian Party includes stop talking about freedom and liberty in absolute terms. Let's talk about freedom and liberty for our kids, and for our kids' kids, and younger generations. When we do that, that takes us from being perceived as radical to being perceived as relevant, and from being perceived as selfish to being perceived as selfless. We cannot purport to be advocates of the free market and then not listen to the clear message that the free market is sending us. When only 1% of the population votes libertarian, they're telling us they don't like our message. Libertarians often want to say, well, if we only had $100 million, we could get our message out. No, the message is out. People don't like it. It's time to change it. Let's start talking about freedom and liberty for younger generations and for our kids. I am the only candidate in this race that is a married man with children. And that's the type of image that middle America that lives in the suburbs of big cities can look at and say, you know, I could see myself as part of that party. People don't want to hear about marijuana from Gary Johnson. They don't want to hear about Austin Peterson saying that American banks should print their own currencies. What? People want to hear one thing. The two-party system is broken. That's my message. The two-party system is broken. 80% of Americans agree with that, and that's all we have to say. We don't have to say anything else. We shouldn't say anything else. The overwhelming majority of Americans want to vote against the Republican nominee and against the Democratic nominee. They just don't want to vote for something that's too radical. So we shouldn't be too radical. We should be a normal family. I like to say that the Libertarian Party is kind of like a house in the middle of nowhere. And the people inside it are a very close family. And I realize I'm a new member of that family. And it's going to be very difficult for members of that family to say, this guy's part of our family. But in the fall, in November, there's going to be hundreds of millions of people standing outside that house. And the forecast is pouring rain. And they're going to be standing out there in the rain saying, I don't know if I want to go in there. I heard about that house. That's that strange house with strange people in it. But I want to put a new sign on the mailbox. I want to paint that house and put a new sign on the door. And open the door and say, come on in, it's raining out there. It's warm and dry in here, and we're good people. The two-party system is broken. Feel free to use it for your own. You'd be amazed at how people react to it. Thank you.
Obama has a problem. He spends so much money, and the wealthy send so much out of the country before taxes. You know, that's the thing. They don't care. You can send all the money you want out of the country as long as you pay the tax. We must be allowed to dip our bill. You know, to throw a little mafia lingo in there. Hey, they act like mafia. Why not call them mafia, okay? Anyway, the Panama Papers, you know what those are. There's a whole bunch of emails and secret correspondence that's suddenly come out and saying all kinds of things. Well, they've started naming names of the people who do that. The latest one named is, right here, Miss Emma Watson. I think she appeared in, what was some B movie called, what was it, Harry Potter or something, if I remember right, you know. I'm sure my kids know a lot better than I do. She put her money in the Bahamas. How dare you put your money in the Bahamas and not let El Presidente take his cut? How dare you? Bad, bad. Yeah? And then she sent it somewhere else. All the time, not understanding that Obama has to do something about this. But what Watson is doing is perfectly legal. She's not breaking any law, folks. So Obama just can't go and take it. He has to make sending it out of the country illegal first, or at least have the ability to tax it. Okay? You have to pay for it sooner or later. No free rides. Well, the next pool of money out there for them to go after is our retirement funds. They tried this down in Argentina. The president got stopped by the courts. There's several $1 trillion there. Last time I heard, I think it was like 14 trillion. Remember, our national debt is pushing 20 trillion. That's just, you know, just say 20 trillion. You don't want to know about all the future payments and all that. It puts it up over 200 trillion. Let's just say 20 trillion. Keep your blood pressure down a little bit, okay? So about 14 trillion in retirement funds. Well, you got to leave Kansas out of that because the gov is already busy loaning our capers retirement. So Kansas doesn't have all of that. But overall, that is where the money is. Hey folks, how do your bailouts feel now? I'll ask that again later. I think it's an important question to ask. But remember, elections have consequences. Okay? Well, big conversation right now is over which bathroom are we going to use? Now, the transgender crowd, folks, would love to have you think that this is the question, and it is as simple as what you're seeing on the screen right now. The government invading your privacy. But I would humbly suggest not eliminating that panel, but setting a second panel next to it. And in that panel, you would portray a child abuser abusing a child, molesting a child, or a woman getting raped. To me, that more clearly entails the whole question, not just one part of the question. Well, DePrez is threatening North Carolina over its traditional view by withholding education funds from the state. That's it. Yeah. Punish those students because you disagree with the legislative policy. Hey, why don't you draw a line in sand? Or how about another line, or another line, or another line, or another line? Okay, but seriously, folks, seriously. As usual, Washington yells and screams about things they want us to do without involving all the little eddies and backwaters of the problem. Why do people go to a certain bathroom? Why that one and not that one? Okay? The Weatherman has identified 5 separate reasons 5 separate reasons why people go to a certain bathroom. Now notice, I'm not saying go to the bathroom. I'm saying go to a certain bathroom. Why do you pick that one and not that one? Okay? Okay, 5 reasons. Category 1, it's appropriate to my God-given plumbing, and when you gotta go, you gotta go. Okay? Category 2, God messed up. Now, I'm going to stop right here. I could take off and go on all little tangents here because I disagree with him. God never errs. Okay? He never errs, and he's never taken by surprise. Okay? But that's not the topic. Okay? I'm here to give you their opinion, not mine. Okay? So, continuing here. Today, I associate with the female gender. And I'm only doing what's natural. It isn't my fault. This group also includes those who are unsure of their gender. I may be built like this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's who I am. 3, it's the inquisitive child. I'm 8 years old, and I want to see why it's so different in here than the other one. Oh, wait a minute. What's that over there? They got one of those? I wonder what that's for. Okay. 4 is the pervert. Gotta get me somebody to abuse. Okay. Number 5, the dare. Now let's stop and let's get the scenario. Okay, 5 females standing around in the mall. One of them has told them, "Hey, you want to join our club? Well, this is what you got to do. You got to go into the men's restroom, take a picture of a man's junk while he is urinating. Okay? She goes in, takes the picture, runs out, shows it to her friends, and they all run out of the mall. Okay? Okay. Analysis. The transgender group would tell us that the problem lies with those who would stop them from choosing which bathroom to take. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, you should not do that and you should not do this, okay? Because I'm looking for a solution here, okay? The libertarian response is this: we must always, always protect the innocent. And who is the innocent? The inquisitive child. Should never be punished, okay? We want to encourage being inquisitive. But also, the fact is, the child could become a victim of the abuser. So if you see something like this, reconnect them with their parents and let the child know through their parents that this action places them in great danger. Okay? Category 1, the naturalists, should not be criminalized, as what is being done now in a lot of areas. Just because they happen to disagree doesn't make them evil, just means they have a different opinion. Okay? Category 5, the dare. Should be punished, but lightly. You know, yeah, they did things they shouldn't do, but maybe banning them from the mall for a month would be appropriate. Now, if their group is part of people that are into other things, then we already have laws on the books to deal with that. We do not need to go any further. Category 3, the abuser. How can I put this? How can I put this? Whatever you do to them ain't enough. Fillet them while slowly draining their blood out of them. That's not enough, folks. That's not enough. So whatever you do, like I said, is not enough. 2, the transgender. They need to be as sensitive to the first category as they demand that category be to them. Okay? This is where the unnecessary conflict comes in, and it is unnecessary. It's very unnecessary. Well, you have to respect my feelings all the time. I'm not respecting yours. Okay? Okay. The transgender doesn't want to feel forced into an uncomfortable situation. Neither does the first category. Okay? Force will only make anger and hard feelings. It becomes it's them or us, you know. I have to protect them, you know. It becomes this kind of thing when it doesn't have to be. In high schools, students every day skip showers because they do not want to be seen naked in public. So, what's the answer? Individual restrooms, folks. Here you see one that's already in practice. Individual restrooms. You go inside, close the door, do your thing, you come out, notice it's a public area. Okay? The abusers cannot trap little kids. You know? They cannot do it. Okay? So, this hurts the chances of the pervert while respecting everyone else's privacy. Problem solved. Now, I do have this picture whenever you think of this, and kind of get this mental image. He's 6'5", 350 pounds. He was in the Marines for 20 years. He's got a 2% body fat. He could press me with one arm and yawn at the same time, you know. Here's this guy. He's minding the door. Here comes this 4'0" pregnant woman running up to him. She gets told she can't go in because she doesn't have any identification to prove her gender. I pity that poor Marine. He'll never know what hit him. And then, what with the people who don't get into the restrooms because, hey, no, I left my birth certificate at home tonight, officer. You know, that kind of thing. Well, a lot of them I know, male and female, okay, fine, they just step off to the side, let it rip, pull their pants up when they're done and walk away. Okay? You know, it really wouldn't bother them at all. So let's solve this thing and not cause any more problems. Okay? Speaking of problems, banks need money. Government can't give any more. What is a bank to do? Well, folks, it's called negative interest rates. That is, you pay the bank to keep your money. Been watching Greece lately? They got negative interest rates. Riots in the streets, folks. Okay? Your money doesn't earn interest anymore. You pay interest. Well, this will cause people to take money out of the banks. Can't have banks falling apart. The government then, to keep the banks afloat, will tell you how much of your money that you can take out of your account at any one time and when you can go back and get some more. In Greece, it was like $75 every 3 days or something like that. Okay? Imagine feeding 3 kids on $75 a day, or every 3 days. Well, anyway. So again, how are those bailouts looking to you, folks? Remember, and this is one of my favorite passages out of the Bible. To everything, there is a season and a purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Hey, come meet us out at Mocha's first Saturday of the month, 10 a.m. Sit down, say, hey, you're them crazy folks that believe in freedom and restoring everything to us. And we'll go, yeah, that us. Uh-huh. Okay, think of this. People don't like Donald Trump. They don't like Hillary Clinton. Okay. I'm there with you, folks. They want a third party. Mitt Romney's trying to get one started. You remember Mitt Romney. He's the one that snatched defeat from the jaws of victory back in 2012. When he should have won, he lost. Oh, you don't want him either? But you don't consider the libertarians. Look, got a solution here, folks. Go pull out some paper. Okay? On one sheet of paper, write down everything you want out of a political party. Everything. Then on the other sheets of paper, write down the platforms on all the parties, the Republicans, the Democrats, the Greens, every one of them, the Constitution Party, the Libertarian Party. And then look at them and compare them. And whichever one goes right down the line with you, it comes up the closest, vote for them. Now, why can I say this? Because I got no doubt. I got no doubt, folks. It'll be the Libertarian Party. If the people who believe as we believe would support us and work for us, we'd have a full slate of candidates and the government wouldn't be near the mess that it is now. Well, y'all, I'm kind of done for this month. But first of all, before we leave, let's see what Elizabeth the Libertarian has for us. What do you got, Elizabeth?
Oh no! Oh! Help me! Oh, I know I have a gun in here somewhere. Oh my! I'm sure I do. Oh, dog toy? What is all this? I have no idea. My sprinkles? Oh my, here's a brick. Here, hold that for me. I'm frightened now, please. Oh, goodness, it's too hot in here. You're frustrating me. Here, now I have my gun. Ladies, this was for fun. However, your life is very important. It is valuable. You have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to carry. You have the right to know what your circumstances are and be safe in that. I strongly urge you to, get an NRA person to help you learn gun safety and gun control. If you think you're protecting your children, your life comes first. Because what would your children do without you? If they have to visit you in the graveside, or are they under foster care? These are important things to think about. Your life matters, and you have the right to protect it, and you have the freedom to do these things. So I strongly urge you to get skilled in learning gun safety and gun knowledge, and learning where your assailants are. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to close here, and then we're going to run a video called about the libertarian chick here, and why. No, guys, this is not dubbed. That's how she really looks. Okay. So stop and wait, and let's see what Kristen has to say.
It sounds nice to say things like, oh, I want to help the poor, everyone deserves free college, everyone deserves free health care. But in reality, getting people hooked on the government and not giving them pathways to become self-sufficient obviously is not compassionate.
Hi, I'm Nick Gillespie with Reason TV, and today we're talking with Kristen Tate. She blogs at thelibertarianchick.com, and she's the author of the great new book, Government Gone Wild: How DC Politicians Are Taking You for a Ride and What You Can Do About It. So this is a libertarian manifesto aimed at millennials especially. How do you summarize your core message?
My project with this book was to reach an audience that would not necessarily already be politically involved, not even just involved with libertarianism, but politics. As a millennial myself, I regularly notice this general apathy within my generation. And it's not that my generation is stupid, we're just depressed with the state of affairs when it comes to politics.
What's so depressing? Look, I'm a baby boomer and I'm depressed by politics. What's depressing you guys?
Well, every time you see anything in the news about politics, it's all just negative, negative, negative. Oh, we're $19 trillion in debt. The job market sucks. A lot of us are living in our parents' basements. It's just honestly easier to tune out, go on Snapchat, and stalk your ex-boyfriends on Facebook than it is to try to engage in these issues in a way that's fun and frankly uplifting.
Throughout the book there's an optimism and an upbeat energy, which is great, but then it's also specific. I mean, you're saying, part of the problem is that the government, or Republicans or Democrats, they're always trying to control people. They're always trying to limit your choices or tell you, do this, don't do that. How does that factor into a kind of millennial malaise about politics?
We like freedom. I mean, that kind of comes with the whole internet age. We like having a lot of control over our lives. So this big brother idea of the government always watching us, trying to control every aspect of our lives, is a big turnoff. And frankly, again, I think it's depressing, and it's not a message that resonates with millennials. So again, I think that it's easier to just throw your hands up and just say, I'm not going to engage in this at all, than it is to try to sort through these issues in a way that is conducive to progress.
What's your libertarian origin story?
Well, my dad's more of a Republican and my mom's a Democrat, so they're divorced, obviously.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I kind of grew up disagreeing with both of them on a lot of issues and not really knowing where I stood politically. And then as I became older and I sort of got myself into the world outside of my house, I started noticing among my peers a very, very dominant shift towards the left, especially in college, because you have all of these professors who are, in my classes, they were kind of like brainwashing the kids, even in these political science classes. So that really disturbed me. So at first I kind of thought, maybe I'm a Republican, and I started going to these Republican student groups, and the second I got into these groups, I thought, okay, I'm definitely not a Republican, because they were talking about policing the world and bombing places, and all this fear-mongering was going around, and that's kind of when I discovered libertarianism. I think I heard Ron Paul speak at some sort of student speech I think he was giving at the University of New Hampshire, and I just thought, this guy makes a lot of sense.
You know, here, let me ask you a specific question about Ron Paul, who, you know, more than anybody probably in the past 10 years, really kind of put libertarianism on steroids. And surprisingly, he appeals to tons of college students and younger people, even though he is, you know, somewhere between 70 and 1,000 years old. And he, you know, he doesn't play to the crowd. I mean,
Right.
He speaks in long sentences, complicated thoughts. What is the appeal of Ron Paul, do you think? Or what was it for you and to millennials in general?
The guy is just so damn authentic, and it's so nice and a breath of fresh air to have someone like that in politics, because we as a generation, I think, and not just millennials, everyone is sick of these canned politicians giving written out speeches, and it's just so unauthentic. So when someone like Ron Paul came along, he's goofy, he's kind of, you know, he makes mistakes in his speeches, he laughs at himself. That was very, very inspiring for a lot of young people.
So that's kind of the style, but then the substance also resonates, it seems.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, of course, because when you look at a lot of polls, which reason it's always writing about this, millennials as a generation, even though they may not know they're libertarians, they tend to be very more accepting with different social lifestyles and then fiscally conservative. So that really is libertarianism. So yes, Ron Paul's message resonated with a lot of people in my generation because of that.
In the book, especially in the final chapter or so, you talk a lot about compassion in the book, and about how compassion and politics should go hand in hand in a particular way. What's, you know, compassion and libertarianism rarely, you know, get talked about in the same breath. So what's the role of compassion in your form of libertarianism?
Well, compassion literally means to suffer through something with somebody. And this idea that giving people handouts from the government is compassionate is just totally ludicrous. And it's something that I think libertarians and also some conservatives really need to shine a spotlight on. Even with Bernie Sanders, we're seeing this movement among young people getting behind this man because they think he's so compassionate. Because it sounds nice to say things like, oh, I want to help the poor, everyone deserves free college, everyone deserves free healthcare. But in reality, getting people hooked on the government and not giving them pathways to become self-sufficient obviously is not compassionate. We are literally creating generations of people who are dependent on the federal government to get by. We have over 50% of Americans relying on checks from the Fed every month. So this is not compassion. We need to shine a spotlight on this issue because I think it's a winning issue for libertarians. Like you said, not many people mix those two words, libertarianism and compassion, but I think this ought to be focused on more because I think it's a winning issue for libertarians. It's just a matter of getting that message out there in a way that is uplifting and kind of makes sense to people.
Is there anybody in the major parties that you're hoping will become president?
No, honestly, this election makes me want to projectile vomit. It's a fascinating election, actually, but there's really nobody out there that I really love running. Everyone has their issues in my eyes. I think Hillary and Bernie are obviously the two worst choices in my opinion, but I really don't see any very liberty-friendly candidates in the two parties right now.
On that uplifting note, we'll leave it there. We've been talking with Kristen Tate. She blogs at thelibertarianchick.com, and she's the author of the excellent new book, Government Gone Wild, How DC Politicians Are Taking You for a Ride, and What You Can Do About It. Kristen, thanks for talking.
Thank you, Nick.
For Reason TV, I'm Nick Gillespie.
But that's the way it is. On Thursday, May the 12th, 2016. For the Saline County Libertarian Party, this is Mike Troe. May God bless.